Listen closely, because this isn't philosophy, it's physics of the mind. Every single day, you're programming yourself with one dominating thought, what you believe you are. And here's the truth that most people never face. Your external world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting your internal beliefs. You don't get what you want, you get what you believe you deserve. If you believe you're unstoppable, life bends to that energy. If you believe you're not enough, every opportunity slips through your fingers. Right now, your beliefs are writing the script of your destiny. And unless you interrupt that story and rewrite it consciously, you'll keep reliving the same chapter in different years. So today isn't about motivation, it's about reprogramming, it's about taking control of the invisible forces inside you that shape everything outside of you. You've got one life, one shot, and one belief system that decides how far you'll go. So ask yourself, are your beliefs building your future or burying it? Your beliefs are not just thoughts floating in your mind, they are the architects of your entire reality. Every action you take, every word you speak, every emotion you feel is driven by the beliefs you've accepted as truth. When you look at your life right now, your relationships, your health, your finances, your level of happiness, what you're really looking at is a reflection of what you believe about yourself and the world. You've been building your reality brick by brick, belief by belief, often without even realizing it. The human mind is a powerful creator, but it's also a master of confirmation. Both men and women live inside stories shaped by the beliefs they've carried for years. Stories inherited from parents, culture, failure, heartbreak, and society. A man who believes he's not good enough will unconsciously sabotage every opportunity that proves otherwise. A woman who believes she's unworthy of love will find herself drawn to people who reaffirm that pain. The belief becomes the lens, and through that lens, reality bends to match the story you tell yourself. Your subconscious doesn't care whether your beliefs empower you or destroy you. It just accepts what you feed it and works relentlessly to make it true. That's why some people seem trapped in endless cycles of struggle, while others keep rising no matter how many times they fall. The difference isn't luck, it's belief. It's the internal narrative they've chosen to accept as their identity. Change that internal code and your entire experience of life transforms. You don't attract what you want, you attract who you believe you are. Every belief begins as a thought that gets repeated with emotion until it becomes a truth. Think about how you learned your limits. Someone once told you that you weren't smart enough, strong enough, talented enough, and instead of rejecting that lie, you accepted it, rehearsed it, and built your life around it. Over time, it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. But beliefs can be rewritten. The same way you programmed yourself with limitation, you can reprogram yourself with power. You can decide right now to believe in a version of you that demands more, expects more, and acts with conviction. What separates those who live extraordinary lives from those who merely survive? The courage to question their own beliefs. Men often hide behind the armor of control, thinking vulnerability is weakness, when in reality, it's the gateway to growth. Women often carry the weight of perfection, believing they must do everything flawlessly to be worthy, when in truth, worthiness was never something to earn. It was always there. Both are prisoners of belief systems that were never truly theirs. The moment you challenge the beliefs that have defined your limits, you begin to reshape your reality. Your mind is like fertile soil. It doesn't choose what grows, it simply grows what you plant. Plant seeds of strength, faith, and possibility, and your life will start to reflect those beliefs. The transformation doesn't begin when the world changes, it begins when you do. Every person alive carries a story, narrative about who they are, what they can do, and what life will allow them to have. That story shapes everything. It's not your circumstances holding you back. It's the story you keep telling yourself about those circumstances. The human mind builds identity around repetition, around emotion, around meaning. You've told yourself the same story so many times that it's no longer a thought, it's become who you are. And the moment that story becomes your identity, it becomes your limitation. We all start building these stories early. A child who grows up hearing that they're not enough starts to believe it, even without words. That belief becomes a filter through which they see the world. A man who was told to be strong learns to suppress emotion and later wonders why he feels disconnected and angry. A woman who was told to be perfect learns to fear mistakes and later finds herself paralyzed by the pressure to please everyone. These stories are silent prisons. They sound rational, they feel familiar, but they are nothing more than recycled lies that have been passed down and reinforced through years of conditioning. The real danger isn't the story itself, it's the comfort of it. Even a painful story can feel safe because it's predictable. It gives you a reason for why things are the way they are. I can't succeed because I didn't have the right upbringing. I can't be loved because I've been hurt too many times. I can't change because this is just who I am. Those statements might sound harmless, but they're cages built out of words. The moment you accept a limitation as truth, your mind starts working to prove it right. It's not that you can't, it's that your story won't let you. Men often carry stories built around control and strength. They tell themselves that vulnerability equals weakness, that asking for help is failure, that emotion is dangerous. But those beliefs are illusions created by pain. When a man hides behind control, it's not power, it's protection. He's protecting himself from the fear of being seen as not enough. And yet that same armor that shields him also isolates him. He wants connection, but his story won't allow it. Women, on the other hand, are often taught to tie their value to perfection, to appearance, to being everything for everyone. They tell themselves that if they fall short, they'll lose love or respect. And so they overgive, overwork, and overlook themselves, all in the name of a story that was never truly theirs. To destroy that story, you must first expose it. You have to hear it clearly, question it fiercely, and challenge it relentlessly. Ask yourself, who told me this? Where did I learn to think this way? What am I gaining by keeping this story alive? The mind clings to limitation because it provides certainty, even if that certainty is painful. But when you confront it with truth, the illusion starts to collapse. You begin to see that your story was just one version of reality, not the only one. Rewriting your story doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen. It means giving it a new meaning, one that serves you instead of sabotaging you. The man who was told he'd never be enough can decide that his pain made him stronger, more capable, more driven. The woman who was told she must be perfect can decide that her worth isn't measured by performance but by presence. The story doesn't define you unless you keep reading it the same way. You can take the same pages and write a different ending. Every time you say, "This is just who I am," you're reinforcing a version of yourself that no longer serves your future. Identity isn't fixed, it's flexible. You can burn down the old story and build a new one out of truth, power, and self-belief. That's how real transformation begins, not by changing what's outside of you, but by destroying the story inside that keeps telling you you're less than you are. Every lasting change begins with belief. Not hope, not luck, not chance, but belief that's been installed deep enough to become automatic. The difference between people who rise and those who remain stuck isn't potential, it's programming. The mind is a machine that runs on repetition and emotion. Whatever you feed it consistently with intensity, it will eventually accept as truth. That's why success isn't an event, it's a pattern. It's built from the small, repeated acts of conditioning your mind to believe in the reality you're creating long before it shows up. Most people don't even realize they're hypnotized by their own habits of thought. They wake up every morning rehearsing the same doubts, the same fears, the same insecurities, and then wonder why life doesn't change. If you tell yourself every day that you're not confident, that you're unlucky, that nothing works out for you, your subconscious doesn't argue. It obeys. It will find ways to make sure those statements stay consistent with your reality. The brain's job is not to make you happy, its job is to keep you safe and consistent. And for most people, safe means familiar, even if familiar means miserable. Repetition is how your beliefs were built in the first place. As a child, you didn't consciously choose your beliefs. They were programmed into you. You heard the same messages over and over, some empowering, many limiting, and through repetition, they became your truth. A boy repeatedly told to man up, learn to bury emotion, and associate vulnerability with shame. A girl constantly praised only for her looks learned to believe her worth was skin deep. These beliefs weren't chosen, they were inherited. But just as they were installed through repetition and emotion, they can be replaced the same way. Emotion is the amplifier that cements belief. You can repeat affirmations all day long, but if they're flat, mechanical, and disconnected from feeling, they won't stick. The subconscious is activated through emotion. When you feel something strongly, whether it's fear or power, your brain takes note. That's why moments of trauma stay etched into your mind, and moments of triumph feel unforgettable. If you want to program a new belief, you must attach it to emotion. You must feel it as real before it becomes real. The more vividly and passionately you engage your nervous system in a new belief, the faster your brain rewires to support it. Men often find it difficult to attach emotion to belief because they've been conditioned to suppress it. They approach change like a strategy, logical, structured, detached. But belief doesn't respond to logic, it responds to energy. When a man connects emotionally to his vision, when he allows himself to feel the power of what he's capable of, he stops overthinking and starts embodying. Women, on the other hand, often feel deeply, but sometimes attach that emotion to self-doubt or guilt. They replay emotional memories that reinforce limitation instead of empowerment. The key is to redirect that emotional energy to feel equally as intensely about strength, freedom, and worthiness as they once did about fear or failure. You can't install new beliefs passively. It requires consistent emotional conditioning. Speak the belief, visualize it, embody it, and reinforce it until it becomes second nature. The first few times your mind will resist because it's wired to protect what's familiar. But with persistence and passion, what once felt unnatural becomes effortless. The man who used to believe he was powerless begins to move with certainty. The woman who used to believe she wasn't enough starts showing up with authority. That's the power of repetition fused with emotion. It doesn't just change what you think, it changes who you are becoming. Your identity is the foundation of everything you do. Every choice, every behavior, every habit is driven by who you believe you are. You can set goals, change strategies, chase motivation, but if your identity doesn't evolve, your results will always return to the level of your self-image. People don't get what they want, they get what they are. The outer world always matches the inner identity. And until you shift who you see yourself as, you'll keep repeating the same cycles, no matter how hard you try to break free. The truth is, most people never consciously decide their identity. It's built over time through experiences, influences, and interpretations. A boy who fails once and hears he's not good enough starts identifying as a failure. A girl who gets rejected and told she's too much learns to shrink herself to be accepted. These moments stack and form a silent identity, a subconscious definition of who you are and what's possible for you. The problem is, that identity becomes the ceiling that limits your potential. You start to live not according to your capabilities, but according to your conditioning. Men often link their identity to performance and control. They see themselves as strong when they're winning and weak when they're uncertain. So when life shakes them, when they fail, lose, or feel out of control, they question their entire worth. They start chasing validation through achievement instead of alignment through purpose. Women, on the other hand, often tie their identity to connection and perfection. They feel valuable when they're needed, loved, or admired. So when they experience rejection, criticism, or failure, they internalize it as proof that they're not enough. Both patterns come from identity structures built on external validation rather than internal certainty. To change your results, you must break the pattern of identifying with your past. The mind loves consistency. It wants to protect the version of you it already knows, even if that version keeps you small. That's why people sabotage progress. They're trying to succeed with the identity of someone who still believes they're unworthy, incapable, or broken. Change feels like loss to the mind, So it pulls you back toward what's familiar. The only way to override that pull is to consciously decide who you are going to be, not based on who you've been, but based on who you choose to become. Identity change isn't about pretending, it's about embodying. You don't wait until you feel confident to act confidently. You act confidently until your brain accepts confidence as your new normal. The moment you start aligning your behavior with your desired identity, the nervous system begins to rewire. The man who once saw himself as powerless starts behaving as if he's capable, decisive, and grounded, and soon enough the results follow that new identity. The woman who once saw herself as unworthy starts speaking with strength, making bold choices, and setting boundaries, and her life begins to mirror that inner transformation. Your identity is the command center of your life. Every belief, every decision, every result flows from it. You can't outperform the image you hold of yourself, but you can reinvent it. It starts with language, with behavior, with vision. Speak in alignment with who you want to be. Move like the person who already has the results you desire. Make decisions from the version of you that's already arrived. Over time, your actions will carve a new identity, and that identity will naturally produce new results. The shift happens the moment you stop trying to change outcomes and start upgrading the one who creates them, you. Doubt is the silent killer of potential. It doesn't destroy your dreams all at once. It erodes them slowly, thought by thought, hesitation by hesitation. Every time you question your worth, your ability, or your future, you feed the part of your mind that wants to keep you small. The truth is, doubt is nothing more than a habit, a mental pattern that you've rehearsed for years until it became automatic. And just like any other habit, it can be broken. Certainty, confidence, conviction, they're not gifts reserved for a lucky few. They're skills built through repetition, conditioning, and conscious control of your focus. The human brain is wired for survival, not success. It's designed to notice threats, not possibilities. That's why doubt feels so natural. It's your mind trying to protect you from pain, rejection, or failure. But in doing so, it also protects you from growth. A man who doubts himself hesitates when opportunity calls, and that hesitation becomes regret. A woman who questions her value stops sharing her voice, and that silence becomes her prison. Doubt convinces you that caution is wisdom, when in reality it's just fear in disguise. The cost of doubt isn't safety. It's the life you never live because you keep second-guessing your own power. Men often experience doubt in the form of pressure. They fear not being enough, not performing at the level expected of them. That pressure builds into self-criticism and paralysis. They tell themselves they're being realistic, but deep down it's doubt anchoring them to mediocrity. Women often experience doubt as comparison. They look around, measuring their progress against others and conclude they're behind. They downplay their strength, their brilliance, their beauty, because somewhere along the line, they learn to question it instead of own it. The pattern is the same. Their mind runs loops of uncertainty until belief feels distant and impossible. Breaking the habit of doubt begins with awareness. You can't change what you won't confront. You have to catch yourself in the act. Notice the moment you begin to hesitate, overthink, or predict failure before you even try. That's the trigger point, the place where you take back control. Interrupt the pattern, change your posture, your breath, your state. Speak out loud what you want to believe, not what fear whispers in your ear. The brain learns through contrast. If you flood it with certainty often enough, doubt starts to lose its grip. Every moment of decisive action weakens the old neural pathway of hesitation. Rebuilding certainty requires proof, and proof comes from progress, not perfection. Start small. Keep promises to yourself. Each time you follow through, your subconscious collects evidence that you can be trusted. Certainty isn't about knowing everything will go right. It's about knowing that you will handle whatever happens. When you build that kind of inner trust, external circumstances lose their power over you. The man who once questioned himself before every decision begins to act with clarity because he's built certainty through repetition. The woman who used to look for validation outside herself now radiates confidence because she's learned to validate her own worth. Emotion fuels certainty. You can't just think your way into confidence, you have to feel it. You have to embody it, move with it, breathe it, speak it until your nervous system accepts it as real. That's how you rewire your mind for power instead of fear. The more emotional intensity you attach to moments of courage, the faster your brain learns to associate action with strength instead of risk. Doubt fades when certainty becomes your emotional home. It's not about eliminating fear, it's about replacing hesitation with movement, replacing uncertainty with decision, and training your mind to believe in you more than your fear ever could. Most people live their lives reacting to their circumstances instead of creating from their vision. They wake up every day defined by what's happening around them. The bills, the pressure, the problems, and forget that life is shaped from the inside out, not the outside in. Circumstances are temporary, vision is eternal. The difference between those who feel stuck and those who rise isn't luck, intelligence, or talent, it's perspective. One life's trapped by what is, the other driven by what could be. The moment you decide to live from vision instead of circumstance, you take back your power to design your future rather than survive your present. Your current situation is nothing more than a reflection of old decisions, old beliefs, and old patterns. It's not your destiny, it's just your data. The mistake most people make is letting that data define who they are and what they're capable of. They let a bad month convince them they're a failure, a broken relationship convince them they're unlovable, or a financial struggle convince them they're disdain for hardship. But when you live from vision, you stop allowing temporary setbacks to create permanent identities. You begin to act not from your current environment, but from the environment you're building in your mind. Men often live in reaction to performance and control. When circumstances fall apart, they take it personally, As if failure in one area defines their worth as a man, they become reactive, aggressive, or withdrawn, believing their power has been taken from them. But vision restores direction. It gives purpose to pain and structure to uncertainty. When a man reconnects with his vision, he stops fighting the storm and starts steering through it. Women, on the other hand, often internalize circumstances emotionally. When life gets heavy, they carry the weight of everyone else's expectations while losing touch with their own. They adapt, adjust, and endure, but vision reminds them they were never meant to shrink into circumstance. They were meant to expand beyond it. Vision isn't fantasy, it's focus. It's a mental blueprint of the life you're committed to creating, even when it looks impossible. Every great transformation begins with someone who refused to let reality dictate their decisions. You can't wait for conditions to be perfect before you act. Perfection is the illusion that keeps you from progress. When you move from vision, you make decisions based on your desired future, not your current struggle. That shift alone changes everything. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop asking, can I, and start saying, I will. Your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. It only knows what you focus on. When you live from vision, you train your mind to see possibilities instead of problems. You begin to attract opportunities that match your focus because your attention directs your energy. The man who wakes up visualizing success, strength, and contribution starts carrying himself differently. He walks like someone with purpose, and the world responds to that energy. The woman who holds her vision of freedom, confidence, and peace starts making decisions aligned with that reality, and slowly her external world begins to reflect her internal picture. Living from vision requires discipline. It's easy to believe when things are going well, but true mastery is holding the vision when everything around you screams the opposite. That's when faith becomes a muscle. The mind will always try to pull you back to the familiar because it's safe, but safety never built greatness. Every time you choose your vision over your circumstance, you're rewiring your identity for strength, resilience, and leadership. You're proving to yourself that your external reality is a reflection, not a ruler. Vision is the compass that keeps you moving forward when logic says stop. The more you live from that place, the more your life begins to mirror the future you've been seeing all along.